Matt, let me start by asking you this. Has Trump done anything in this campaign to reach out to moderate and independent voters?
Oh, absolutely. If you look at the coalition that the Republicans are bringing out to their rallies and actually out in early voting turnout, it looks a lot like the old Democratic coalition, quite frankly. Young people, minorities, uh, young women, single women is probably his hardest demographic, but married women with children, he's doing really well with.
But he's
Um,
way behind with women. I mean, he's ahead with men, but he's way behind with women.
Right. But he's doing better than he has in the past. And in fact, if you look at the polling across the board, he's about 7 points ahead of where he has been in 16 and 20. So they're doing something right. And if you also look at the early voting trends, there are several states, including all the target states, where Republicans are actually beating Democrats in early votes, which is a really bad sign for Democrats and a really good sign that the Republicans have figured out the new types of elections here in the states where, you're voting for almost a month and getting those people out and banking those votes is critical. In 2020, they didn't do it. They actually told people not to do it. And in 2024, the party and the RNC, the Republican National
Mm.
Committee, has done a masterful job of getting those votes out. We're actually beating Democrats in early voting, which, like I said, for the Harris campaign, and you've heard it here in the US press, there's a lot of hand wringing over a lack of enthusiasm on the Democrat side, not on the Republican side.
Well, that's what we're told. It's always hard to gauge. I just sometimes seem puzzled. If you've got a gender gap as he has, it helps him win enormously if he could get more women. He's never going to end the gap, but he could reduce the gap. Just saying, as he did last night, that he thinks Harris should fight Mike Tyson, who's a convicted rapist, and using the B word for Nancy Pelosi, doesn't seem to me the ideal way to win the hearts and minds of women.
Well, one thing you're never going to do is change Donald Trump. He's going to do what Donald Trump does. It's worked for him in the past in 16. It didn't work for him in 20. And tonight we're going to find out how it works in 2024. One of the appeals of Trump has always been he's not a politician. He's not somebody that, like Harris, is careful to the point where she really doesn't say anything or put her foot down on the side of any issue. She's for opening the border, she's for closing the border, she's for this and she's for that. Trump, on the other hand, sometimes, Republicans have to deal with it, tells you exactly what he thinks. And he's an entertainer. And that's the type of guy he's going to be. So no one's going to stop Donald Trump from being Donald Trump. That's for sure.
Sure, though it might stop him becoming president. If he'd been more disciplined, he might be further. He might be ahead in the polls at the moment if he had concentrated. Because we know the issues, they work to his favor. Immigration works to his favor. The economy works to it. Cost of living works to it as well. But he gets publicity for all sorts of other off-script, off-message stuff, which doesn't seem to me to add to a more appealing message to those who haven't yet decided to vote for him. Indeed, it may remind many people why they didn't vote for him in 2020.
I would actually say this campaign has been by far the most disciplined of all the Trump campaigns. I worked on the
Really?
16 and 20 campaigns. Really, the message has been, and it's been hammered over and over again. Sure, there's diversions to it, but they broke it. I'm going to fix it. Are you better off for now than you were 4 years ago? And the answer, unfortunately for the Democrats, is a resounding no. The world is not in a better place. There's wars in Europe. There's wars in the Middle East. Our economy back home is not in the shape it was, certainly pre-COVID. And the Democrats and Harris have had an opportunity to say, look, I'm going to do things differently than my boss. And every time she's flubbed that answer and said, I can't think of one thing that I would do differently. Not the disastrous withdrawal out of Afghanistan, not the disastrous policies that have led to record inflation. She needed to have something that made her different than Joe Biden, other than the fact that she's a woman and she's younger than him. And I think they're going to look back on that and regret that they didn't make that distinction, because our elections tend to be either you want the guy in the White House or his party or her party to continue on, or there's a referendum of change. And this election certainly feels a lot like it's a referendum on change. And that's one of the reasons why, Andrew, I do think the numbers are going to be a bit surprising tomorrow morning. Everyone looks at them, because I do think a lot of people are going to go to the ballot box and decide, I need change, I need something different. And Trump will probably end up winning by a little bit more than most people expect.
Interesting. We'll see. The U.S. economy is 12% bigger than it was pre-pandemic. Can you name any other major economy that's done better than that?
Well, if you tell the American people that sitting around their table, Andrew, they're not feeling it.
Yeah, but it
So
is a
it
fact.
doesn't matter what stats you come up with. It matters what you can put in your refrigerator and what you can put in your gas tank. And unfortunately for Americans, they don't have the buying power that they had 4 years ago. They have less buying power than they've had post World War II.
But that's true of every economy. That's true of every major market economy because of the inflation.
Americans aren't sitting around talking about what's going on in the rest of the world. They're talking about what's going on in their own economy. So if you're the incumbent party in the White House and people don't feel like they can put food on the table for their kids, they can't take a vacation, they can't put gas in the car, they got to work an extra job just to stay even. That's, it's just a bad place for an incumbent party to be.
If Mr. Trump loses narrowly, are we in for a repeat of 2020?
I don't think so.
You don't think he'll litigate the result? You don't think there'll be multiple challenges to the result in almost every swing state?
I think if the election is like it was in 16 and 20, whoever is the party on the losing end is going to do the same thing that they did in those years, meaning that Hillary Clinton fought all the way to the Electoral College voting, actually trying to intimidate Electoral College members by putting their personal information out on the internet. But I do think this is going to be, one way or the other, a distinctive victory, and the country will be able to move on. So I don't think we're going to see those types of things. Believe me when I tell you, I hope and pray.
Of course, I understand the case for a clear result. But you think if the Democrats win, that could be a clear result as well. You think if the Republicans win, it will be clear. But if it is the other way, you think the Democrats' result could be decisive too?
I actually do think that. I think this is going to be a referendum election. The referendum is either going to be, I'm tired of the last 4 years, I want to move back to what I know, or the referendum is going to be, I don't want Donald Trump back in the White House. Whichever one it is will be distinctive, and I think we'll actually have a clear-cut election. I do think if Trump wins, it's likely that he ends up winning the popular vote, which will be the first time since 2004 that the Republicans won.
If he does make it to the White House, will he abandon Ukraine? Will he start a global trade war with all these tariffs that he's threatening?
I think everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth is a negotiation. And I think what he's doing is setting those negotiations to be from his standpoint, not from the other people sitting across the table from his standpoint. So at the end of the day, if he were to win, I do think the Ukraine war will be settled pretty quickly. People will stop dying.
Ukraine will probably lose about a third of its landmass too.
I don't know if it'll lose that much of it, but I do think that there's going to be a situation where everyone sits down at a table and walks away, where each person from Ukraine and Russia feels like they won a little bit and lost a little bit. But I truly believe this. The war in Ukraine would not be happening. The war in the Middle East would not be happening had Trump won.
But we never know that. I mean, that's easy to say. We never know
that. We'll never know, but
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you what I believe. American weakness has played a massive part in both of those wars starting.
Will he use the Justice Department to seek revenge? Will he turn the military on his enemies, as he says? Or is that just bluster?
Well, he was president for 4 years. Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation clearly had some legal issues, and he did not pursue them when he was president the last time. Conversely,
He
Joe
didn't lock her
Biden,
up.
he did not, but Joe Biden has gone after his political opponent with the Justice Department, including Jack Smith, who was overturned at the Supreme Court 9-0. How a United States president could pick Jack Smith to be the guy to go after the first former president shows you, I think, where Joe Biden was coming from in that investigation.
Okay, Matt Keelen, it's great to talk to you on a busy day, a big day for the United States and for the rest of the world. We'll leave it there. Matt Keelen, Republican strategist, talking to me on Times Radio.